When you think of San Francisco, you might envision the Golden Gate Bridge, cable cars, sailboats on the bay. It's a gorgeous place. When you get there, what you encounter are hilly streets, a ton of congestion, constant construction, and the complexity and difficulty of getting across town. It actually takes an enormous amount of time. So imagine my surprise when I'm meeting with a young entrepreneur and she gets across town in just 10 minutes. I can't believe it. How is this possible? Here she is. This is Zulika. She comes across town on an electric scooter. She has solved this problem that is frustrating so many people in San Francisco today by going around on her own electric scooter, showing up to all of her meetings early. I think this is ingenious. It's actually amazing. She has solved this problem in a much better way. And I got interested in ingenuity and then started seeing it all around me. In fact, I started teaching a course at Stanford Graduate School of Business on this topic. I define ingenuity as seeing the world as it is, but really envisioning a better way forward. You know, it takes resourcefulness, it takes originality, it takes, looking for solutions that are just not entirely obvious. And once you go into the world looking for ingenuity, you actually start seeing it everywhere, just like this entrepreneur. So I'd like to share a couple examples that will change your lives, hopefully your organizations, different industries, all from this look at what it means to be ingenious. We all know that retail, brick and mortar retail, is on the decline. We see this trend very obviously in our communities. Long-standing retailers like Toys R Us and Sears are closing stores. But here's what's really interesting. The largest brick and mortar retailer in the United States, Walmart, is taking a completely different tact. I had the good fortune to meet Lori Flees. She's been the chief strategy officer at Walmart. She's also stood up and run the internal accelerator venture capital fund called Store Number 8 that's investing in experimental retail for Walmart. And the ingenious moment here for Lori is that she actually looks at that business and says, retail is not going to be enough. They have 140 million people walk into their stores every month. They are the largest retailer, and yet Lori and the senior management team in there is saying, what does the future look like? And here's the question: how do we use our assets? How do we repurpose what we have to solve problems for our customers? Lori starts doing some research and starts realizing, and this is pretty amazing, that Walmart serves 90% of the US population within 10 miles of their home. There is a store 10 miles from 90% of the American population. Their customer makes about $75,000 a year and has a number one concern that is healthcare, access to quality healthcare. So Lori and her team take that on and they say, all right, this is a real flash of ingenuity. We're going to try to serve our customers for what they need. And imagine if you are a working mother, you have 2 kids, your children need to go to the dentist. This is actually complicated right now. You have to leave work, you have to pull your kids out of school, you have to drive to a dentist's office, make an appointment, wait in the lobby, take your kids back, go back to work. What if you could take your children for a dental cleaning at Walmart? A $25 cleaning. You could do the grocery shopping for the week while they're getting their teeth cleaned, pick them up on the way out of the store. That's the future of where Walmart's going. Lori is now the head of health and wellness. And they are looking at putting primary care, chiropractors, physical therapists, Quest labs for diagnostic blood tests. You're going to start seeing all of this store by store serving local communities. It's a real ingenious idea for a retailer to partner and move into the healthcare space. And what Lori talks about is that's not only good for their clients, that's the future, and that's going to be very good for their business. So think about your own business, think about your own organizations. How can you partner with others across? How can you serve a customer need in a completely different way? How can you make that good for the customer, good for your partners, and good for your own business? That's part of what Ingenuity is, reversing a downward trend by looking for a better solution. I'll give another example. Not only are people not walking into retail stores, when's the last time you went into a bank? Not just an ATM machine, but an actual bank, right? People are not going into banks anymore. Online banking is fundamentally changing this business too. This is Stephen Roberts. He runs transformation for Barclays Bank. And I met him last summer in a really great meeting. I was in London for the Founders Forum. And Stephen and I started talking about, what does this look like, this industry? And what he said is, 7 years ago, they started shutting a bank branch one a week across the UK. In some of these branches, they had only 25 people a year walk in. Okay, this is empty space and empty hours. What do you do if you run a large global bank and people are not coming? This model has shifted. So here's the really interesting thing that Stephen does. He goes back to the roots of the bank in order to find the way forward. And in the 18th century, Barclays started as a coffee shop. They were a gathering place, a community location where merchants and traders came and bankers helped with the money behind those transactions. Stephen started saying, all right, what does the world need now? Where's the local need? And 7 years ago, they said it's Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi. Barclays stands up free Wi-Fi 24 hours a day in their branches, and they suddenly become the largest Wi-Fi provider in all of Europe, right? Kids are showing up, students, tourists, professionals, entrepreneurs. Everybody wants the free Wi-Fi that Barclays is providing. It brings people into their branches. They also Stephen starts saying, okay, there are millennials in our bank. They can teach our older employees how to use iPads and iPhones and all the technology that's just coming into the marketplace. They start with a handful of volunteers. They're called Digital Eagles, these millennials. Then there are 3,000, now there's 18,000 millennials across Barclays. They're not only helping older employees use technology, they're teaching in the branch banks at night. They have repurposed those unused hours and unused places after 5 p.m. Those are learning centers. They're bringing in underprivileged kids, teaching them how to code. They're bringing in older people, teaching them how to use technology. It's an amazing transformation of a bank branch. And then what happens is a lot of startups and entrepreneurs start thinking, wow, this is a really good deal. We would like office space in these branch banks. This has become Ego Labs. And now Barclays is the largest incubator across the United Kingdom. There are about 100 startups in their branches, branch to branch, and they're driving brand new business growth out of those same locations. So this is real ingenuity. This is ingenious thinking. How can you, all of us in our own lives, how can you go out and fill the unmet and the unused hours, right? Or the unused spaces? How can you think about that, and how can you serve a community need? Who would like to be in those unused hours? Who would like to be in those unused spaces? Each and every one of us can think about that and turn that ingenuity to be serving a larger purpose. Now, in the case of both Walmart and Barclays, those are needs of the future of their business. They're not entirely catastrophically urgent. They're not hitting you right in the face, right? But the automotive industry has got 4 disruptive forces all coming at it right now, all at the same time. If you're in the automotive space, you have autonomous vehicles, connected cars, electrification, and ride sharing. All four of these things are colliding to impact your business. This is Mike Abelson. So he's the Chief Strategy Officer for General Motors. I brought him into a couple of classes that I teach at Stanford Business School. And to bring Ingenuity alive, I bring in CEOs, entrepreneurs, investors, different executives to talk about what they're doing. We're really fortunate to have amazing people come into the class. I'd say Mike left this indelible memory for me and for our very bright students. And what he said was, Ingenuity is not only important to thrive, in their world, it's important to simply exist. They are going to see more change in the next 5 years than they have seen in the last 50 years in the automotive sector. They have to be thinking of new solutions, they have to be leaning forward, or they won't exist. And he also said that, General Motors is recently out of a bankruptcy. In 2008, they declared bankruptcy. What Mike has said is, once you've been bankrupt, it takes a lot of arrogance out of a big company. Because once you've declared bankruptcy, it can happen again. So with these forces coming at this business, they are making bigger bets. They are moving faster. They are embracing bigger risks. This is part of Ingenuity. You have to believe that the risk is worth it. You have to think that ingenious new solutions, something new and different, is worth pursuing, and that the biggest risk is actually taking no risk at all. This is another lesson. Each one of us can go into the world and say, are we mired in the past? Are we too wedded to ideas that we already know? Are we willing to take risk? Are we willing to lean forward and try something new? Now, I want to give one more example, and this is out of my personal life. Once I start seeing Ingenuity everywhere, I started looking, at my own life. And my father built a career in the forestry industry. This is my dad, and he's recently won a World Forestry Center Leadership Award, a Legacy of Leadership Award for safety and sustainability in the forestry industry. So not only is Ingenuity important to the bottom line of a business, it's important to the heart line of something that you care about. For my dad, it was really important to have safety in timber and in logging. And so he went into the world and said, okay, we're going to work with employees. We're going to convince everyone that we can have the job and the work get done and no injuries. We're going to figure out how to do this, and it may not be a priority when they start, but 50 years later, the standards are extremely improved. You can not only meet a bottom line, you can save lives if you will be ingenious and look for better and different solutions. So the question now is, how do you apply these things? How do you make this real in the world? So we're back to Zulika, right? How can you show up across town in just 10 minutes? How can you take these ideas and apply them to your own work? There's ways of thinking about this. Instead of thinking you go it alone, go out and find partners, reach across, find people that are very different from you and build things together. There's the example of Walmart. Instead of having empty spaces or empty time, serve a community. Figure out what the community needs and fill that empty space. Instead of thinking that the past or the way that you've done something is less risky, actually embrace the risk of going forward. That's what General Motors is doing. And if you think something's a priority, it's important to you, put it on other people's radar screen. There's the example of my dad with safety. Go out and figure out how to make it a priority for other people. We're at the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library, and one of my favorite quotes is about how, it's not up to us to fix the blame for the past. It's up to us to fix the course for the future. My hope is that everyone here will use Ingenuity, that you'll tap into the resourcefulness and all of the many experiments and the very proactive ways to find new solutions, and that as you go forward, that you'll focus on fixing the course for the future. Thank you.